Hello, and welcome to the Lyman Lipke Guitarcast. It is Monday, meaning I'm recording this the day it goes up, but that may not always be the case in the future. How's everything going? I hope you're doing well. I've got the Fretless guitar today, and I thought I'd have that be the main subject of today's podcast, the Fretless guitar. So for audio onlys who can't see, I could be, yanking your chain and just bending very, very cleanly. But the video people can definitely see that this guitar has no frets. Before you jump into the fretless guitar, share this podcast, please. Either the YouTube link or the Spotify link. Let's grow this thing so we can build a little community, and I don't have to keep asking my Instagram for questions. You can leave your questions in the comments here, or there's a little box on Spotify where you can put in your questions for the Q&A episode, or your just general feedback, on which I will take under advisement. Also, as always, available for lessons. If you're interested in that, please reach out. Hope to see some of you there. Any other housekeeping duties? I don't think so. I think that's it. So, let's just talk about my journey with fretless instruments. And this starts all the way back at the beginning of my musical journey. My first instrument that I played was in 5th grade orchestra, and it was the viola. Viola doesn't have any frets, and it's a lot like a violin, except it's a little bit bigger, and it's tuned down a fifth. It's an octave higher than a cello. So, the very first instrument I played, stringed instrument, had no frets. Shortly after, I switched to violin because I wanted to play nice melodies, and I also picked up the guitar around that time as well. In orchestra in middle school, I also switched to upright bass as well, so I was playing a little bass in orchestra, which led to playing bass in jazz band, which led me here. When I was 15, I got my very first fretless guitar-like instrument, a fretless bass, which is hanging on my guitar rack. You can see it from here, and that instrument has served me very well. So all that to say is I feel like I've had like a little bit of a leg up, a little bit more preparation and training when it comes to getting used to having to deal with a fretless instrument, such as the fretless guitar. Ever since I got my fretless bass, 17 years ago, I've wanted a fretless guitar, and back in ye olden times, there wasn't a lot of info on it, so it just kind of sat on the back burner. Until about 2020, pandemic times, I had a left-handed Strat that I put a right-handed neck on. This neck. And I decided it would be cool if I, just ripped the frets out. So I did. I just ripped the frets out. I put the neck back on the guitar and tried to play it. There were these little holes where the frets went, and that caused a lot of problems. So I thought, okay, I'm going to need to fill these holes somehow. I filled them with sawdust and super glue. And then I tried again. problem here was that whenever I passed where I filled in the glue, there was a little bump. So I'd get a buzz around every quote-unquote fret. So, I had to go back to the drawing board. I sanded the neck down. That got me a little bit better. But there was still a lot of dead spots, a lot of wonky spots. And so my next thought was, I got to do what Jocko did. I've got to epoxy the neck. Except I didn't have any epoxy. What I did have was super glue. So I painted a few coats of super glue on and then sanded it back down. And it was starting to become a playable instrument. It wasn't a playable instrument, but it was starting to become one. And this is when I started posting videos on TikTok and Instagram with the fretless guitar. And over the course of the next few years, and that took that was a whole year of the neck sitting on the shelf and thinking about it before I got it to be any sort of playable. And over the next couple years, I kept, tweaking with this. It was about a year ago when I put a ton of coats of super glue and then sanded it down with the radius block and sanded it down to a high gloss finish. And now it is a playable instrument in most spots. You can hear that. There's some dead spots on the high E string between the 2nd and 6th fret. So I gotta pay special attention to try to avoid those areas of this guitar. But there are minimal dead spots on the rest of the neck. So 3 years later, I finally have a playable fretless guitar, and most of the time, it's been sitting on the shelf. So, and that's the neck. Let's talk about the history of the body of this fretless guitar. Originally, I put it on that left-handed Strat, which was all right, and then I put it on my right-handed classic Vibe Strat body, which looked a lot like the left-handed Strat. So I did a little, meme on my TikTok channels, TikTok and Instagram, because the guitar was left-handed, and then one day it was right-handed. I decided I wanted my classic Vibe Strat back, so I put a regular neck on it, but I still had the fretless neck. And I had this Lyman Stratocaster that was sitting collecting dust. So I put the neck on the Lion, and that was better. But the pickups on the Lion were the worst pickups I've ever seen. You know how you're supposed to wax pot pickups? That's when you dip your wound coil into wax and let the wax permeate the pickup so it doesn't move around, so it's not microphonic. This thing just caked. It had a big old wax cake in the pickup cover. And the pickups didn't sound very good. So I swapped out for a Telly neck. And that was pretty much the only pickup I would use. Until recently, I bought this loaded pickguard, which has two, for the neck in the middle, it has some rail humbuckers, and then it has a regular humbucker at the bridge. Meaning I can actually switch pickups now. And all these pickups, like, have coil split as well, which is kind of cool. But I've just been leaving them in humbucker mode because, as we discussed last time, I hate noise. So the humbucker takes care of some of the noise. So now, finally, I would feel comfortable bringing this instrument out in public, and I'd feel okay, like it's reliable enough. Decent pickups, neck works, the electronics are good enough. And this loaded pickguard costs like $26 on Amazon. Wild. But literally anything would have been an upgrade on what was in here originally. So this instrument has evolved a lot over the past few years. And everybody's always asking me to play certain things on it that are normally played on a fretted guitar, like or that one's tough. That was pretty tough. And everybody wants to hear what bar chords sound like. That one sounds pretty good. That one does not. Your F shape or your E shape bar chord is pretty close to impossible to get in tune on the fretless guitar. That's as close as I can get it. So I've kind of been in the pursuit of what chords will work on the fretless guitar. And a lot of the chords that I play on a fretted guitar, I have to finger them a little bit differently on the fretless. So this is a shell voicing, a B7 shell voicing. And I finger that with a bar shape. So I'm barring the 9th fret, 7th fret on the E and D strings. I'm using my 3rd finger to play that 8th fret on the 3rd string. Usually I play that chord with 3 fingers. But that's very, very awkward on the fretless. Triads, closed position triads, work pretty well. But that's something you gotta practice a lot of, and I haven't put the requisite practice for those things on the fretless guitar yet. One technique that makes chords a lot easier is my finger bridge technique. And what that is essentially, I treat my finger as if it's, going on a string. Like I'm going to fret it. But instead of putting it on the string, I'll put it in the middle of 2 strings. So still trying to keep the finger curved, but it's covering 2 strings. So that... And there's a certain angle that you can get it in tune. And we usually only use this for fourths on the strings tuned in fourths, or that major third on the G and B. So that lets me play chords like this, closer to in tune. It takes a lot of practice to get things pretty well in tune, especially for chords. Something that I think that helped me a lot with the tuning for single note lines, besides, playing fretless bass and upright bass for so long, is something that similar to what Jocko said in a video lesson that he did. He, when he's playing the fretted bass, will fret or finger right below the fret. So, and I do the same thing on guitar, if I'm fingering right below the fret, especially for single note lines, my fingers know where to go. I just need to make some small adjustments, but the muscle memory is mostly there. And whenever I can, if I'm practicing like scales for intonation, I'm always checking against open strings. So say in position 5 of C major. Right here on the 3rd fret of the A string, I have a 5th that's available, the open G string. And then on the 5th fret of the A string, that D, I have the open D string. And then on the 7th fret, I have the open E string. So that's something I can, check against. Closest thing that I have is like the major 6th for the F on the D string. And then I've got the G string, open A string, B string, and then got a major 3rd here. So that's one way I'll practice getting things in tune, checking against open strings. But it's an ongoing process. There are some tunes that I can play, like chord melody. Jimi Hendrix chord isn't an easy grab either. But these 6-9 chords are pretty simple, as are the 13 chords. That's a rough one. That second inversion, major triad, with the root doubled on top. This chord is almost, it's not going to be possible. 9 sharp 11. So I pretty much have to omit the root on that one. And use my finger bridge. So I'm fingering that at the fret, quote unquote, numbers. 8, 9, 9, 8. And I'm fingering that 1, 2, 2, 2. Drop 2 and 4 chords are pretty easy to get in tune because there's a lot of space. So the main reason I built this instrument was for the expressive nature of being able to play melodies, especially on ballads. The slides give me a different tonality than the bends on the guitar. And that's one thing that people ask me all the time. It's like, can you bend on the fretless? Sort of. But that's not something I would really... it's not something I'd really do a lot. Because I have to slide, or because I can slide. Something I can't do on the guitar, the fretted guitar. And I vibrato differently. I vibrato instead of, bending the note slightly. Up and down, like it's more like violin vibrato. Just rock my finger back and forth. Or if I want to really get it happening, I can slide. So most of the time I'm going to think of this as a single note instrument thing to play melodies on. And your shift game has to be on point. Like, you have to have a system for shifting. You cannot guess. You cannot throw a finger haphazardly. And I don't do a lot of same finger shifting. And by that I mean I played all that with the first finger. So if I was gonna shift, I could finger 1, 2, 1, 3, 4, 1, 2, 4. That was all on one string. So having a game plan when it comes to your shifting, like on the fretted guitar, not only going to make it easier to play on the fretted guitar, but going to make it a lot easier to play on the fretless if you ever choose to go this route. And I have a tutorial video of how I defretted and made another fretless neck, which might be going onto this guitar. I'm not quite sure yet. Because that neck is a little bit more, the finish job is a little bit cleaner. One thing I had to take care of was the nut. Because when I'd push the strings down, they would touch the frets. When I removed the frets, there was all this extra height on the string coming down towards the fingerboard because there weren't the frets to get in the way. So I had to cut the nut a lot. Somebody said like this instrument would be hard to intonate because of that. And that kind of blew my mind. Like, what do you mean hard to intonate? Against what? Like, I'm always going to have to adjust the intonation. Like, because there are no frets. Like, if it's in tune at the fret line, or if it's not in tune at the fret line, it isn't the biggest deal in the world as long as it's consistent. And I tried to get it very close. I think the D string is gonna have to come down a little bit. I'm gonna have to increase the length of the string. And looking at the saddles, that makes sense. So if you're ever adjusting the intonation at the saddles, I always had a hard time remembering what way to go. And my wife said, fatter, flatter. Because my wife's a brass player. So if you make the length of tube that the air goes through fatter, the pitch is going to be flatter. Therefore, if we increase the length of the string, because that's what the saddle does, it sets the length of the string, it's going to be flatter. So increase the length of the string to bring the fretted pitch down. Decrease the length of the string, make it shorter if you need to raise the pitch of the fretted note. Just a little handy piece of advice if you're trying to set up your own guitars. Fatter, flatter. sometimes I will do same finger shifting if I'm moving within one step. So right here, I'm moving from the 5th quote-unquote fret to the 7th fret with my 4th finger. And I shifted here on the 5th fret to the 3rd fret with my 2nd finger. And I've got an exercise coming in short form for something like that. Single string shifting. So I tried to shift everything there with the 4th finger. I can do it in reverse. Still shifting with the 4th finger. Then I do it with the 1st finger. Close. Anything else? Other interesting techniques I'll use on the fretless guitar is, especially on the, well, pretty much exclusively on the plain steel strings. And I've got a 56 to 15 set, 15 to 56 set on here. On the plain steel strings, I'll use my fingernail to hold down the note. Because my fingernail is a lot harder than the flesh of my finger. Harder, more solid contact, more sustain. So, fingernail versus finger meat. Nail, meat. Meat, nail. Fun fact, and something I got in an argument about on TikTok, is your finger does not touch the portion of string that's vibrating on a fretted guitar. Your finger is holding down the string behind the fret. So the only thing that's making contact with the vibrating string is the fret. It's a heck of a lot harder than the flesh on your finger. You're gonna get better sustain, better contact. Dude could not believe that your finger does not touch the strings. Like, of course your finger touches the string. Like, well, and it devolved really quickly to insults about my baldness. I don't know if you can tell. I can grow a full head of hair. Like, that is still an ability that I have. I can grow the full head of hair. I just choose not to because it's funny to me. So, because the only thing that that is touching the string on a fretted guitar is the fret, and we've got our soft finger holding the string down, we lose a lot of high frequency information. And we also lose a lot of sustain, which is why I chose to go with the higher mass strings. I've heard, I don't know about this, I haven't scientifically tested it. More string mass means greater sustain. I was also suggested a compressor, which worked all right, but not as well as the suggester may have thought. And somebody said, "Yeah, of course it's not going to work. You got to use something that costs more than $15." This dude, like, checked out his page, and he's just a total gear snob. Like, he's got, $400 pickups in his axe, like crazy boutique pedal board, and can't play all that well. Like, if you like, spending money on quality things and that inspires your playing, more power to you, especially if you can afford it. If you can't afford it, probably look into other avenues, which is why I use what I do. But don't make an excuse that it makes you play better or sound significantly better. You put a Kleenex box with rubber bands on it and give it to somebody like Jimmy Bruno, and he'll make beautiful music on it. Where you hand a beautiful Benedetto 7-string archtop to Joey Gabagool, and his open chords are going to sound like crap because he plays like crap. Having a good tool is helpful as a musician, but it's not going to magically make you play better. That's where the practice comes in. So now that we went over a little bit the construction of this instrument, what this instrument can and can't do, let's talk about like the effects I use. So right here, I've got a drone. I just droned an open E. And it's very useful to practice in front of a drone. Because you have something to reference when your intonation. Fun fact, if you want to get a major third really, really in tune, you're going to have to make it 14 cents flat. Then your major third is in tune with the harmonic series. I'm a little bit behind the fret line. I bet I'm 14 cents flat behind the fret line. So if I use my fingernail and really put it on the fret line, it's probably pretty close to a 12-tone equal temperament major third. But this is perfectly in tune. So that's one more positive about the fretless guitar. You can get chords very, very in tune if you have the skills to do so. But this is my jazz fretless patch. Just a JC120 with a little bit of drive and a compressor on it. I've got the ballpark organ patch. And anything with chorus on it can hide poor intonation. So that's one nice thing, especially about the I like using this patch. This chord is really hard to grab. this patch is very, very cool. So what I've got going on is an octave pedal, bringing it an octave down. And then I've got it going through a double bass impulse response. So I call this like my fake upright bass. And funnily enough, it sounds closer to an upright than if I were to plug in my fretless bass without the pitch shifter. Because the decay on the fretless guitar is pretty quick. Which is, it's more similar to the upright bass's decay than a fretless bass's decay. Because a fretless bass, like, that can last a pretty long time. So, like if I'm, just making a loop. I can use this as my bass. Sounds closer when you're using the finger, but sounds alright with the pick as well. Not so good for chords, especially like real close voiced chords, plus the tracking. If you're not like perfectly in tune, like the tracking isn't gonna pick up the pitch shift too well. And the last patch I've got right here is just my regular jazz patch that I'll use for my fretted guitars. And I like to turn the tone knob down. A little bit flat on that F right there. But this versus the jazz fretless patch that I built, like this sounds closer to what I want. And I've got that compression on there, so the note will last a little bit longer. So that's pretty much the story of the fretless guitar. I am still trying to find uses for it, but the uses and the ideas are becoming clearer. I got a comment like asking like to make more videos with the fretless guitar, so here's one. A big old ramble on it, how I made it, what I use it for, and what I want to use it for, and things that work and things that are hard. So I think we're gonna call it here. Thank you so much if you made it to the end. I'm not sure how many people make it to the end. If you make it to the end of a podcast, please send me a DM on Instagram, and I'll give you some tabs or something like that. I am available for lessons. I've got 30 slots to fill, and there might be more, but 30 slots to fill. So get in, like, send me a DM, check out my website, lymanlipke.com, and we'll put you on the schedule. posting videos like 3 times a week on the YouTube channel. So if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please subscribe. Going to be starting live streams on YouTube. So maybe we can hang out here. Or on YouTube if you're listening on Spotify. Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, like all that's in the link in the description. And if you have any questions that you want me to answer in the Q&A show, leave them in the comments, leave them in the little box on Spotify, or just send me a DM on Instagram. Yeah, that's the Fretless Guitar episode. Thank you once again for listening, and I will see you guys on Thursday for some Q&A. Bye!